I looked at the neatly packed suitcase on the bed, a deep sense of unease settling in my chest. A week in the Hamptons with my in-laws was not my idea of a vacation. But Ethan had insisted, assuring me that this was a good opportunity to improve my relationship with his parents. I wasn't sure that was even possible. 3 years of marriage to Ethan Carter, and I had always felt like an outsider in his family. Linda and Charles Carter were the kind of people who valued status and reputation above all else. They came from old money, while I was just an ordinary woman from a middle-class background. That alone was enough for them to see me as unworthy. Ethan Carter, my husband, was a charming and well-mannered man. He wasn't cruel or controlling, but he also never defended me against his family's subtle jabs. He loved me in his own way, but that love was never enough to make me feel safe in his world. I walked downstairs, where Ethan was waiting. He wore a crisp white button-down shirt and light-colored khakis, looking effortlessly handsome. When he saw me, he smiled gently. "Are you ready?" I nodded, trying to mask my hesitation. We got into the car and headed toward the Carter family estate in the Hamptons. As the car rolled forward, I stared out the window, silently hoping that this trip wouldn't be as bad as I feared. The Hamptons unfolded before us with its tree-lined roads and luxurious mansions. I couldn't deny the beauty of the place, but that only made me feel more out of place. When the car pulled up to the Carter estate, I took a deep breath, bracing myself for the days ahead. Linda Carter greeted us with a polite yet cold smile. She wore an elegant cream-colored dress, her hair pulled into a perfectly styled updo that exuded power. Charles Carter stood beside her, his expression as stern as ever. "Ethan, son, you're finally home," he said in a deep, authoritative voice. "Hi, Mom." "Hi, Dad." Ethan stepped forward to embrace them lightly. I stood still, waiting for their reaction toward me. Linda's gaze swept over me from head to toe, assessing. "Hello, Alice," she said, her tone devoid of warmth. I forced a smile. "Hello, Mom." The tension between us was invisible but suffocating, as if I were an unwelcome guest. Charles gave me a slight nod before turning away, while Linda immediately turned her attention back to Ethan, asking him about work and life as if I didn't exist. Dinner that evening was a heavy affair. Linda spent most of the meal talking about the high-profile social events she attended and the influential people she knew. Charles remained mostly silent, occasionally offering a comment when necessary. Ethan sat beside me, smiling and listening, completely oblivious to my discomfort. "Did you attend the Whitaker charity event recently?" Linda asked Ethan, her tone filled with interest. Ethan shook his head. "No, I've been too busy." Linda frowned. "Busy with what?" "If Alice managed the house properly, you'd have time for more important matters." I clenched my hands under the table, trying not to let my frustration show. This wasn't the first time Linda had implied that I was an inadequate wife, yet Ethan remained silent, just like always. When dinner ended, I retreated to our room, exhausted. Ethan followed shortly after, closing the door behind him. "I'm sorry about my mom," he said softly. "She doesn't mean any harm." I turned to face him, anger bubbling inside me. "No harm? Ethan, did you even hear what she said? I'm never good enough for them." Ethan sighed. "If you just tried a little harder, maybe they'd change their opinion of you." I let out a bitter laugh. "Tried? Ethan, I've been trying for 3 years." He said nothing, just quietly stepped into the bathroom. I watched as his silhouette disappeared, feeling the invisible chasm between us widen even further. I had never truly belonged in the Carter family. Despite being married to Ethan for 3 years, I always felt like an uninvited guest at their gatherings. Evenings at the Carter estate followed a familiar script. Linda Carter, with her flawless smile, would ask me a few polite but meaningless questions before swiftly moving on to a topic that excluded me entirely. Charles Carter, on the other hand, didn't even bother with pretense. He simply ignored me. I remember the first time I truly realized my place in this family. It was a Christmas dinner, about 6 months after our wedding. The entire family gathered around the long dining table, candlelight reflecting off the gleaming silverware. I tried to join the conversation, but My words were met with polite nods before they quickly shifted to a subject I had no part in. When I glanced at Ethan for support, he merely squeezed my hand under the table and whispered, "Don't take it personally, love." But how could I not? How could I ignore the fact that even my own husband didn't see that I was being pushed aside? Linda was a master at using sweet words to deliver sharp insults. Once, during dinner, when she learned I worked in marketing, she tilted her head in fake interest and said, "Oh, you work in marketing? That must be fascinating." The words themselves were neutral, but her eyes weren't. They carried the unspoken message that my career was insignificant compared to the Carter family's multi-million-dollar enterprises. For a long time, I convinced myself I was overthinking. But then, small incidents kept piling up. One evening, after dinner, I offered to help Linda clear the table. She merely smiled and turned to Claire, Ethan's cousin, a young woman from another prestigious family. "Sit back, Claire. Someone else will take care of it." I was the someone else. Charles, on the other hand, didn't bother with passive-aggressive remarks. He simply acted as if I didn't exist. If I walked into a room, he continued his conversation without acknowledging me. If I spoke at the dinner table, he reacted as though I hadn't said a word. Ethan always told me not to let it bother me. "That's just how they are, babe. They don't mean anything by it. They're just like that, sweetheart." My parents don't mean anything by it. But if they really didn't mean anything, why did I always feel like an outsider? And now I was about to spend an entire vacation with them. Ethan was excited about the trip. He said it was a chance for me to bond with his parents. But my gut told me this wasn't a good idea. I had thought about declining, using work as an excuse, but the way Ethan looked at me, pleading, made it impossible to say no. "I just want you to give them one more chance." So I agreed. But deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was a mistake. I knew this trip wouldn't be easy, but I didn't expect it to start off this badly. The expensive SUV rolled slowly up the gravel driveway of the villa. The setting sun cast a golden glow on the ivory walls, its light reflecting off the towering glass windows. In the distance, waves crashed onto the shore, a low, melancholic melody. Linda was the first to step out, immediately taking the keys from the butler. She glanced at me briefly, cool, indifferent, before turning to the others with a perfect smile. "I've arranged the rooms for everyone." I pulled my suitcase along, trying to convince myself that maybe this time would be different. But the moment I stepped inside the villa, the feeling of not belonging washed over me. After a few minutes of listening to Linda assign rooms, I noticed something strange. My name had never been mentioned. "What about my room?" I asked, keeping my voice calm. Linda looked at me as if she had just remembered I existed. "Oh, right. I've set up a room for you in the attic. It's a bit small, but very private." I glanced at Ethan, hoping he would say something, but he just gave me a weak smile. "I'm sure Mom just wants you to have your own space." My own space. I dragged my suitcase upstairs, opened the door, and immediately understood why Linda had called it a bit small. The room was cramped, with a single bed pushed against the window and an old wooden wardrobe. The slanted ceiling was so low I had to duck when walking around. The worst part? Ethan's room wasn't here. He had been given a spot in the main suite with Charles and Linda. I swallowed the lump forming in my throat. "It's just a mistake," I told myself. That's all. If the first day was just a sign, then the following days proved that I was never meant to be part of this trip. On the first morning, I woke up to complete silence. No sounds. No one calling me for breakfast. I walked into the kitchen, only to find the dining table already cleared. A cold cup of coffee was the only thing left. I checked my phone, and my heart sank when I saw Linda's Instagram post. The whole family on a yacht deck, raising glasses of champagne. Without me, I set my phone down, feeling as if someone had just slapped me across the face. That evening, Linda mentioned that the family would be dining at an upscale restaurant. Finally, a chance to be included in something. But when we arrived, the host glanced at the reservation list and said politely, "Sorry, this table is for 4 people only." I turned to Linda, stunned. She just smiled. "Oh, that must have been my mistake." I forgot to book an extra seat. I looked at Ethan, waiting for him to say something. He simply placed a hand on my back and whispered, "Go back to the villa, babe. I'll bring something for you later." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I left the restaurant, walking along the beach in the dark. The waves crashed against the shore, cold, unfeeling. Staring out at the vast ocean, I felt myself disappearing. Ethan insisted it was just a misunderstanding. But how many misunderstandings did it take to realize I had never been part of this family? And I had no idea that the worst was yet to come. By now, I was no longer surprised when the Carters excluded me from their plans. But tonight, they had gone too far. Linda stood in the living room, arms crossed, her voice sugary sweet but laced with meaning. "Tonight's dinner is special. Just for the Carter family." The words sliced through me like ice. I looked around. Charles was sipping his wine, not even acknowledging me. Ethan stood near the window, silent. I turned to him. "What about me?" I asked, my voice eerily calm. Ethan looked confused, as if he hadn't expected me to ask. "I'll talk to Mom later," he murmured, as if that was a solution. A slow anger burned inside me. "So, you're saying I'm not part of the Carter family?" I emphasized each word. Linda chuckled softly. "Oh, don't take it that way. We just wanted a traditional family dinner." Traditional family? I had been married to Ethan for 3 years. 3 years of trying to fit in. 3 years of enduring their condescension. And now I was being pushed aside, right in front of my husband. No defense from him. No sign that he would ever stand up for me. I let out a quiet laugh. For the first time, I looked at Ethan and felt nothing. No love. No pain. Just clarity. He would never choose me. I had endured enough. I turned on my heel and walked upstairs without another word. I didn't want to argue. I didn't want to fight. If they wanted to erase me from this family, fine. But I wouldn't leave quietly. They would know what it felt like to be shut out. I sat on the bed, took a deep breath, and got to work. They thought I was invisible? Then let's see how they felt when their world turned upside down. I logged into Linda's booking account, the one she had carelessly left her password for. One by one, I canceled everything. The hotel room they had booked for their last night in Montauk. They wouldn't have anywhere to sleep after tonight. The private car service, their only way out of here. Linda's spa appointment, a luxurious treatment she had been looking forward to all month. Their fancy dinner reservation, but this time, I rebooked it for one person, only me. I packed my bags in silence. When I pulled my suitcase out of the room, no one in the house noticed. They were all too busy getting ready for their family dinner. Good. I ordered a private car and left that mansion without a hint of regret. On the way to Manhattan, I leaned back in my seat and took a sip of wine from the minibar. For the first time in 3 years, I felt free. I didn't need the Carter family. I didn't need Ethan. And I sure as hell didn't need anyone to tell me my worth. The next morning, the Carter family's nightmare. Linda Carter opened her eyes, blinking a few times to adjust to the dim morning light. The room she was in had no luxurious silk curtains, no plush mattress like the one at the Montauk estate. Instead, the sheets were rough. The pillowcase still carried the sharp scent of bleach. She sat up abruptly, panic creeping in. "Charles?" Linda called out loudly. No response. Just the dull hum of an old air conditioner. She hurried out of the room, and the sight before her made her stomach drop. Charles Carter, the powerful, wealthy man who had always looked down on anything cheap, was sitting in a tacky blue plastic chair, staring at a breakfast of cold, dry toast and a cup of bitter black coffee. Linda's face went pale. "What the hell is going on?" Charles looked up, his eyes tired. "Our hotel reservation was canceled. So was the car rental. We had nowhere to go, so I had to book this motel." Linda's mouth fell open. A motel? Never in her life had she even imagined setting foot in a place like this. This was Montauk, an exclusive retreat for the elite. And yet, here they were, sleeping in a cheap roadside motel, like backpackers on a budget. She clutched her phone tightly. "Call Ethan." "Where is he?" Ethan Carter woke up later than usual. No wife beside him, No familiar good morning text. He reached for his phone, unlocked the screen, and immediately, a flood of messages from his mother popped up. Mom. Ethan. I can't believe this. Everything is canceled. We have no place to stay. Mom. Call your wife right now. What the hell did she do? Mom. We're stuck in a disgusting cheap place. Ethan frowned. He scrolled through his call log. No missed calls from his wife. He sent her a message. Ethan. Where are you? Ethan. Mom is freaking out. Ethan. What the hell did you do? No response. He called her. A cold, robotic voice answered. The number you have dialed is currently unavailable. He tossed his phone onto the bed, running a frustrated hand through his hair. Linda stormed into the room, her face flushed with anger. Did you reach her? Ethan shook his head. Linda crossed her arms, her voice dripping with disdain. I told you from the start. That girl never belonged in this family. She played the part well, but now her true colors are showing. Ethan let out a deep sigh. I'll find her. He picked up his phone again, dialing once more, only to be met with silence. Meanwhile, in Manhattan, I lounged on a deep blue velvet sofa at a chic Soho rooftop bar, the city's skylines stretching out before me. In front of me, a margarita sat on the table, the rim of the glass dusted with a delicate layer of salt, catching the morning light in the most alluring way. I lifted my phone, glanced at Ethan's messages, then turned off notifications and placed it face down on the table. The Carter family was spiraling into chaos. I took a slow sip of my cocktail, feeling a quiet satisfaction settle in my chest. They wanted me to be invisible? Well then, let's see how they feel when they no longer have me under their control. I was enjoying a late breakfast at a French cafe in Soho when my phone buzzed. A message from Sophie, Ethan's cousin, the only person in the Carter family who had ever been kind to me. Sophie asterisk asterisk. You did the right thing. Asterisk. Sophie asterisk asterisk. Did you know they did the same thing to Ethan's ex-wife? Asterisk. I froze mid-stir, my heart pounding. Ethan's ex-wife. He had never mentioned this before. He always told me I was his first and only wife. I quickly typed back. Me asterisk asterisk. What are you talking about? Ethan was married before. Asterisk. Seconds later, Sophie responded. Sophie asterisk asterisk. You didn't know? Everyone in the family does. Her name was Olivia. She was married to Ethan for 6 months before they divorced. Asterisk. Sophie asterisk asterisk. Your mother-in-law treated Olivia exactly like she treated you. She called it a family test. Asterisk. Sophie asterisk asterisk. After one of those family bonding trips, Olivia left immediately. Divorced Ethan within a month. Asterisk. The world tilted beneath me. Ethan knew. He knew his mother had done to his ex-wife, yet he still let it happen to me. I clenched my phone, trying to control the rage bubbling inside me. Everything suddenly became clear. Linda never saw me as a daughter-in-law. To her, I was just another test subject, someone meant to endure their toxic mind games. And Ethan? He never protected me. He knew everything, yet he allowed his family to continue playing their twisted games, treating me like a pawn on their chessboard. I stared at my phone, Sophie's words flashing before my eyes. Sophie asterisk asterisk. You deserve better. I just wanted you to know the truth. Asterisk. I took a deep breath. No, I wasn't going to leave quietly like Olivia. I was going to end this on my terms. The phone on the table buzzed again. Ethan Carter. I leaned back against the cafe's leather seat, took a slow sip of my bitter coffee, and watched the screen light up before fading to black. For the first time in 3 years of marriage, I didn't rush to pick up his call. There was nothing left to say. But Ethan didn't give up. The phone kept vibrating, again and again, as if he was desperate. Finally, I answered. Asterisk. What the hell are you doing? Asterisk. Ethan's voice was sharp, stripped of the usual gentleness. I smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. Asterisk. You knew this happened before, didn't you? Asterisk. Silence. A long, heavy silence, enough to confirm what I already knew. Ethan knew, and he did nothing. Asterisk. Say it, Ethan. Asterisk. My voice was calm, but it cut like a blade. Asterisk, you knew what your mother did to Olivia, didn't you? And you let it happen to me? Asterisk. No excuses. No explanations. Just the deafening sound of silent admission. I inhaled deeply, keeping my tone steady. Asterisk, did you ever really stand by me? Asterisk. A simple question, but one Ethan couldn't answer. Because I already knew the truth. He never did. From the moment I stepped into the Carter family, I had always been an outsider. And Ethan had never once pulled me to his side. He just stood there, watching me struggle, whispering, Asterisk, don't take it personally. Asterisk. I let out a low, bitter laugh. Asterisk, you always told me not to take it personally. How do you feel now? Asterisk. Without waiting for a reply, I hung up. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag 1 week later. The divorce papers. The pen in my hand glided swiftly across the paper in front of me. Divorce papers. No tears. No hesitation. 3 years of marriage to Ethan Carter ended with a single, decisive signature. I filed the papers on Monday morning. My lawyer assured me that with our separate assets, the process would be quick. I wasn't asking for anything from Ethan. Asterisk, asterisk, I just wanted to leave asterisk, asterisk. The next thing I did was block Ethan's number. And Linda, Charles, and everyone else connected to the Carter family. They no longer existed in my life. But before I blocked them, one last message flashed on my screen. Asterisk, can we fix this? Asterisk. I stared at the words for a long moment. Then, turned off my screen without replying. A few days later, I boarded a flight to California. No long-term plans. No attachments. Just a fresh start, a life that belonged to me. The Santa Monica beach stretched endlessly before me. Soft sand beneath my feet, the ocean breeze tangling in my hair. I sat down and ordered a cocktail, took a deep breath. For the first time in years, I felt no pressure, no need to prove anything to anyone. There was only one thing I felt. Freedom. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag lessons from this story. 1. No one deserves to feel like an outsider in their own marriage. A marriage should be a partnership, not a constant battle for recognition. If your partner won't stand up for you against injustice, it means they were never truly on your side. 2. Your in-laws don't have to love you, but they must respect you. If they can't show you basic respect, the problem isn't you. It's their broken values. Don't waste your life trying to win over people who will never accept you. 3. Don't ignore the red flags. Exclusion, backhanded comments, deliberate attempts to isolate you. These are all warning signs. Don't fool yourself into thinking, it'll get better someday, because it won't if you're the only one trying. 4. There's nothing wrong with leaving. Divorce isn't a failure, it's a liberation when you're trapped in a toxic relationship. Happiness isn't about keeping a marriage intact, it's about whether you feel whole in your own life. 5. Freedom is when you no longer have to prove your worth to anyone. Once you realize you deserve better, you stop being bound by other people's opinions. True freedom comes when you live for yourself, not for anyone else's approval.